The drone of the desert wind pressed against the armored transport, like a whisper of forgotten wars. Inside, Captain Elias Vorn sat silent, his gloved hands resting on his knees, eyes fixed on the metal floor, as if trying to read a language only he could understand. The other soldiers in the vehicle kept their distance, not out of disrespect, but from a superstitious wariness, like he was radioactive. He wasn't a soldier, not really. He didn't wear medals or scars like the others. His strength lay not in physical prowess, but in the way his mind dissected problems the way a surgeon sliced through flesh, precise, unemotional, and necessary. Elias was a human engineer, one of the dozen deployed by the Coalition in this war, a war less about territory and more about systems, influence, and shadows. Sergeant Kara Holt sat across from him, arms crossed, chewing on a strip of dehydrated beef. "You know," she said, nodding toward the darkness outside the narrow view slit, "some folks say you people are more dangerous than the ones we're fighting." Elias looked up, eyes cold and steel gray. "People fear what they can't control." "Control?" Holt smirked. "You mean manipulate, rewrite a satellite's brain, shut down water to a city, flip a drone fleet midair. That's not war. That's God mode." He didn't reply. He didn't need to. The vehicle jolted as it slowed. Dust swirled outside like a shroud, and the driver's voice crackled through the comm. 3 clicks out. We walk from here. Boots hit sand, and the unit moved with mechanical efficiency. The objective was a forgotten comms tower nestled within the ruins of a pre-war city, abandoned, at least on paper. Intelligence suspected the opposition had reactivated it to coordinate black market drone swarms. Elias's job, neutralize the network, not with bullets but with code. They reached the shell of the tower under the sinking sun, its twisted antennae clawing at the sky. Holt gestured, 2 fingers up, then pointed Elias toward the base of the tower. "You've got 7 minutes. After that, we assume the worst." Elias entered alone, the air inside thick with the scent of burnt copper and oil. Walls were tagged with cryptic glyphs, remnants of a gang, or perhaps a dead engineer's last signature. His boots echoed across the concrete floor as he moved toward the server array tucked into a makeshift Faraday cage. He knelt, unrolled his kit. A single cable slithered from his wrist, synth fiber interface woven beneath his skin, and linked with the console. His pupils dilated as a connection hit. In his mind, systems bloomed. Firewalls pulsed like arteries. Scripts nested like Russian dolls. He didn't break in. He sang to the system, his thoughts weaving through pathways like silk threads. But something pushed back. It wasn't just a defense protocol. It was elegant, predatory, not machine-made. Human, someone like him. A shimmer of realization passed through him. They left a trap. Outside, Holt's voice snapped through comms. Movement east side. Unmarked gear at least 4. Make that 6. Elias's fingers flew across the manual input as he muttered code under his breath. The trap was spreading, reconfiguring itself to mimic his own intrusion signature. If he pulled out now, they'd trace him back. If he stayed too long, the system would absorb his protocol, his mind. A new line of code flickered across the display. Not his. It read, "Hello, Elias." The words hit like a bullet to the chest. He recognized the signature, now Ravik. Elias tore out the link and staggered backward, blood trickling from his nose. Holt burst in seconds later, rifle raised, eyes scanning the shadows. "We got company. Move." They knew we were coming. Elias rasped, "Who?" "One of ours. Or used to be." They retreated into descending night, the comms tower already lighting up with rerouted power. Behind them, drones rose like wasps from hidden hives, a black swarm against the horizon. In the chaos, Elias's mind wasn't on escape. It was on the single line of code still echoing in his skull. Ravik wasn't just a name. He was a ghost Elias had buried 6 years ago, a fellow engineer gone rogue, presumed dead in a failed operation in Belarus. But dead men didn't write code. And this war, Elias realized, wasn't about machines anymore. It was a war of minds, of architects, of human engineers. And the most dangerous ones weren't fighting for a country. They were fighting for something far more unpredictable. Each other. They ran beneath the weight of darkness, the desert swallowing the sound of their footsteps as if the night itself conspired to keep them hidden. The drone swarm had dispersed, hunting elsewhere, buying them time, but not safety. Elias moved with calculated urgency, his breath sharp but measured. Holt led them through a network of dry ravines toward an outpost buried in sandstone, every step a gamble between exposure and survival. Inside the bunker, shielded by rock and signal dampeners, the team regrouped. Holt paced near the flickering tactical display, frustration etched into her jaw. Elias sat against the wall, sleeves rolled to his elbows, staring at the portable terminal on his lap, like it had betrayed him. "You're telling me Ravik's alive?" she asked without turning. "No," Elias replied. "I'm telling you he never died." The name hung between them like a noose. Ravik had once been the Coalition's most brilliant mind, a tactical engineer so intuitive with machine code, he could orchestrate battles without lifting a gun. He and Elias had been partners in every sense, complementary minds tuned to the same frequency, until Ravik defected or disappeared, depending on which report you read. Elias had buried the betrayal beneath layers of silence, until today. Why would he reach out now? Holt's tone sharpened. "Why the message? Why you? He wants me to know it's him," Elias said. "He wanted me to see his work. That system was too elegant to be random. It was a fingerprint. So what's the play?" "He's building something, testing boundaries." Elias ran a diagnostic, eyes flitting through data like a composer reading music. "He didn't try to kill me. He wanted me to recognize his code. It's a message and a challenge." The terminal beeped. Elias's gaze snapped to it. An external signal was attempting to handshake with the device. No source, no IP, just a data pulse embedded in frequency noise. He filtered it, then again, until, slowly, something emerged. A file. He hesitated, fingers hovering above the accept key. "Don't," Holt warned. "Could be a trap." "It is a trap," he said softly, "but it's also a door." He opened it. A hologram unfolded above the screen, low-res but unmistakable. The schematics of a city grid, unfamiliar yet recent. Power nodes, water controls, transit flow, all marked in red. Then an audio feed crackled to life. A voice, distorted but deeply human. "You always were too curious, Elias." "Ravik," he spoke with the calm of someone who had moved past anger. "I tried to show them a better way, but they clung to their old gods. You of all people should understand what this world needs. Not another army, not another flag, but architects, engineers. We could have built it together." The message cut abruptly. The file self-erased. Holt stared. "He's inviting you to something, or daring you to stop him." "He's daring me to keep up," Elias said. That night, Elias worked alone in the bunker's back room, stringing code like a spider spins silk. Holt checked on him once, found him muttering command lines like prayer. The others stayed away. Elias's aura had changed, tighter, colder. At dawn, he emerged with a digital map burned onto his interface pad. "New objective," he said to Holt. "A ghost city, 60 kilometers north. Doesn't exist on Coalition records." "What's there?" "Answers." They travel by night, across sand seas and jagged hills, the stars their only witnesses. The ghost city appeared as a mirage first, then solidified into a ruin of half-built towers and weather-beaten solar farms. No one had lived there for over a decade, not officially. Yet Elias's device pulsed with life, tracking residual code signatures like scent trails. Ravik had been here. Inside the hollow frame of a high-rise, they found it. A terminal built into the bones of the structure, its interface glowing faintly despite the lack of power. Elias connected. The system didn't resist. It welcomed him. Data flooded his mind. Not war plans. Blueprints. A neural infrastructure that reimagined how systems spoke to each other. Not just machines, but biology, consciousness, cognition. Ravik hadn't been building weapons. He was building something stranger. A framework where thought could become action without machines. A battlefield where engineers didn't manipulate tech. They manipulated reality's infrastructure. He's moving beyond the digital Elias whispered. "He's trying to reprogram the real world." "You mean with nanotech?" "AI." Holt asked. "No," Elias said. "With us." That's when the trap sprang. A hum filled the air. Lights ignited one by one across the building. Doors sealed. The sky outside darkened, as if something enormous passed overhead. Holt reached for her rifle. Contact! But there were no soldiers. No drones. Just voices. Recorded. Twisted. Children laughing. Mothers calling names. Elias's own voice thrown back at him from the past. Sound and memory weaponized. He staggered, tried to maintain his neural tether to the system. Then a final line of code appeared. "Let go, Elias. This is the future. You can't stop what's already running." He shut down the link manually, slamming the firewall closed. The voices stopped. The light died. The silence returned like a vacuum. When they exited, the city felt emptier than before, like something had watched them and moved on. Holt pulled Elias aside. "You're shaking." "He's not just threatening us anymore," Elias said. "He's inviting the world to evolve or collapse." "Are we going back?" "No," Elias said, stepping away from her. "We're going forward." The sand shifted beneath them as they walked away, the wind carrying with it traces of voices only Elias could still hear. The convoy rolled under a storm-brewing sky, wheels grinding over cracked asphalt like a slow dirge. Elias stood in the lead vehicle, face unreadable, his eyes fixed on a rising silhouette of Black Spire Station, a relic of the old world, abandoned since the first neural collapse. It had once served as a military coordination hub. Now, it pulsed faintly with unauthorized activity, signals too advanced to trace. Coalition Command had given strict orders: investigate and secure. But Elias already knew. Ravik was inside. Behind him. Holt scanned the structure through long-range optics, her fingers twitching near her weapon. "There are heat signatures," she said. 3. Maybe more. But no uniforms, no movement patterns. Could be bait. "It is bait," Elias replied, stepping down from the transport. "But we're taking it anyway." He moved like a man haunted, each step heavier with the knowledge that the answers lay ahead, and none of them would be comforting. As they crossed into the station, the wind dropped off, sound flattening into stillness. The air itself seemed to resist their presence. Inside, the architecture shifted between brutalist angles and strange organic shapes, remodeled, not by machines, but by someone who understood how systems could bend space. Bend meaning. This wasn't just a location. It was a canvas. In the central control chamber, light poured from a suspended array, and the floor beneath it shimmered with data pulses that formed, dissolved, and reformed like thought made visible. Holt circled cautiously, her rifle low but ready. Elias stepped into the array. It didn't fight him. It recognized him. A voice emerged from the light. Calm, unhurried. "You made it." Ravik stepped forward from the far edge, no longer a ghost. He was leaner, sharper, his skin laced with shimmering bioware. His eyes were unchanged, still cold, brilliant, unforgiving. Elias didn't speak at first. His mind raced, parsing the moment, cataloging every signal, every glance, every silence. "You're not hiding anymore," he finally said. "I never was," Ravik answered. "I've been building. While the rest of the world clings to dying systems, I've been preparing for what comes next." Holt stepped closer, weapon raised. "You're wanted for treason. Surrender now and we take you alive." Ravik looked at her, expression unreadable. "You still think this is about nations, armies. You don't understand. None of you do." Elias raised a hand to her. "Let me?" He took a step forward, eyes locking with Ravik's. "Then help me understand." Ravik smiled faintly. "Do you remember the Athens Directive? Back when we thought we could save the global net with patches and filters. You and I knew the truth then. The code was rotting. The systems were dying. But only I accepted what that meant. Evolution, not repair. I didn't defect. Elias. I transcended. And how many had to die for your evolution?" "They were already dying," Ravik said, voice colder now. "Starving in cities run by failing grids, choking under collapsed economies, executed by automated regimes that couldn't adapt. I gave him a new equation. You turned them into code, Elias said. You uploaded them. I freed them. From hunger, from mortality, from being tools in someone else's system. I built a neural construct beyond identity, beyond fear. They volunteered. You mean they trusted you? Elias said, and you made them less than human. Ravik's smile faded. No, I made them more. Silence pressed between them like gravity. Holt shifted behind Elias, uncertain whether to fire, to listen, to run. Then Ravik gestured to the array. See for yourself. Elias hesitated, then placed his hand into the interface. The room dissolved. His mind shot forward, not through data, but through consciousness. Images blurred, then sharpened. A child smiling in a war-torn street. A man blind for decades, suddenly seeing again. A woman, dying of ALS, laughing as her digital self ran across a simulated ocean. Every life here is real, Ravik whispered through the link. They're not lost. They're enhanced. We built them a new home. Elias broke the link, his breathing ragged. You're not building a future. You're escaping the present. Ravik's gaze turned mournful, still clinging to entropy. You always were the better architect, Elias. But I was the better believer. Movement at the chamber's edge interrupted them. Figure stepped into view, 6 in total. Human in shape, but with skin that shimmered faintly, eyes aglow with embedded neural light. Not soldiers. Hybrids. Holt lifted her rifle. Are those? They were once like you, Ravik said. Now they serve something greater. You turned them into machines. No, I gave them the choice to evolve. Elias stepped between them. And what if we refuse? Ravik didn't blink. Then you'll be left behind. The tension snapped. Holt opened fire. The hybrids moved impossibly fast, dodging with unnatural grace. Return fire came in pulses of kinetic energy, smashing consoles and walls. Elias grabbed Holt and dragged her into cover, shielding her as a bolt tore through a control node behind them. Fall back, he shouted. They moved in tandem, dodging through fractured corridors, firelight dancing along the glassy walls. One of the hybrids dropped from above, blocking their path. Elias reached into the terminal beside him and triggered an emergency override. The floor split open beneath the hybrid, dropping it into darkness. Outside, the sky had fully darkened. Their transport was already compromised, burned, systems fried. Holt cursed under her breath, clutching a bleeding arm. We're not getting out of here the way we came. Elias scanned the landscape, then spotted it. A signal tower, long range but buried beneath rubble. If he could reach it, piggyback the neural feed, he could send one burst transmission to command, enough to warn them. He helped Holt to her feet. Can you run? I can kill. That'll have to do. They moved, breath ragged, the sound of pursuit behind them a constant drumbeat. Reaching the tower, Elias tore into the access panel, his fingers a blur over shattered keys. The system resisted him, not Ravik, the machine itself, as if the structure had developed an immune response. He whispered old code Trixie and Ravik had built in the early days. Failsafes no AI could interpret. Finally, the feed clicked open. A single burst of data screamed upward. Location, threat level, system schematic. Then silence. Behind them, Ravik stood at the ridge, alone, watching. We're not enemies, Elias, he called. We're just walking different roads. Elias stared at him across the distance. Then stay on yours. They disappeared into the dust storm as sirens echoed faintly across the horizon. Reinforcements on their way. Elias didn't look back. But he knew Ravik would still be watching. The sky above the Coalition compound buzzed with inbound craft, their engines leaving scorched trails against the early morning haze. Inside the command chamber, Elias stood alone at the center of a circular data well, surrounded by projections of code, maps, and biometric feeds. His expression was tight, jaw clenched, a store behind his eyes that hadn't settled since Black Spire Station. He hadn't slept, couldn't. not with Ravik's voice still echoing in the hollowed corridors of his thoughts. Holt stood at the doorway, a fresh scar slicing across her cheek. "You got 5 minutes before debrief," she said. "They're assembling the oversight tribunal." "I know." Elias didn't turn. "They'll want to classify everything." "They already did. You're not supposed to mention the hybrids." "Or Ravik." He looked over his shoulder, eyes haunted. "He's already mentioned himself." She moved closer, resting a hand on the edge of the console. "So what now?" "We sit and wait while he rewrites the world." Elias exhaled, slow and sharp. "No, we rewrite back." Data flickered around them, shifting, collapsing, reforming. Elias had spent the past hours decoding the fragments he pulled from the signal tower. Within them was Ravik's signature, buried deep in a lattice of interference. But beneath that, Elias had found something more disturbing: timestamps. The hybrid network wasn't just expanding, it was sinking, aligning with neural feeds across multiple geozones, threading into infrastructure hubs once thought dormant. Ravik had seeded the system. Now it was blooming. "It's not just him anymore," Elias murmured. "He's decentralized. Every modified node is a limb. Every neural imprint, a mind contributing to the system." "Like a god," Holt said grimly. "No, like an organism." He paused. "He's not leading them. He is, Footsteps interrupted. Director Senna entered with 2 guards in full formal gear. Her face was polished, diplomatic, but her eyes held the sharpness of someone accustomed to control. "Captain Vorn," she said coolly, "you've made quite the impression." "I'm not here for impressions," he replied. "You got my signal." "We did, and we're concerned. Your report is difficult to verify." "You want proof? Walk into any silent grid between here and Sector 12. You'll find systems behaving like they've grown instincts." Senna's lips tightened. "That kind of language leads to panic." "This isn't a metaphor, Director." Elias stepped forward. "It's evolution, and if we don't act now, there won't be a system left to defend." Holt moved to his side. "You've seen the data. You know he's right." Senna hesitated. She was a politician, trained to see angles instead of truths. But something in her posture shifted, a flicker of doubt. "What do you propose?" Elias turned to the data wall, bringing up a holographic map of the Atlas Spine, the Coalition's last fully isolated neural corridor, untouched by Ravik's reach. "We go here. We build something new, not to fight his system, but to match it, mimic it, engineer a counterorganism." "You're talking about creating your own hybrid network," Senna said, alarm sharpening her tone. "I'm talking about balance," Elias replied. "His system grows because there's nothing to oppose it. We've tried bullets, firewalls. They won't work. We need another consciousness in the field, one that remembers what it means to be human." "And who will pilot that?" Elias was silent for a beat. "I will." Senna narrowed her eyes. "You're proposing full integration. Permanent. That's suicide." "No, it's design." Elias's voice was steel now. He built a system on faith. I'll build one on reason. He escaped into evolution. I'm going to drag evolution back into the light. The silence that followed felt like the room had exhaled. Senna gave a terse nod. "Permission granted. You'll have 1 week. After that, we reevaluate. If your construct doesn't show signs of resistance, then I'll already be gone," Elias finished. That night, in a chamber deep beneath the compound, Elias sat alone before the integration core. Tubes coiled like serpents, and the walls pulsed with low-frequency data flow. He stripped off his uniform, revealing the lattice of old neural ports that ran along his spine, remnants of experiments past, never truly dormant. Holt entered quietly, carrying a small vial of synaptic stabilizers. "You'll need these. Once you go in, there's no anchor back unless your mind stays lucid." He looked at her with something close to warmth. "Thank you." "You don't have to do this alone," she said, stepping closer. "We could build a team, researchers, allies." "I don't need allies," he said. "I need symmetry." She touched his arm, holding his gaze. "Then come back." Don't get lost in what he became. I won't, he whispered. He ran from humanity. I'm going to remind him what it feels like. When she left, Elias lay back into the cradle of the integration chamber. The machine hissed to life, wrapping him in light. His last thought, before consciousness unraveled, wasn't a war. It was a choice. As his neural thread linked with a new framework, something pulsed in the dark, familiar, distant, waiting. A voice spoke inside the stream, amused and unmistakable. You're late. Elias smiled in the dark. I'm just getting started.